Today will be our first session of a classical Arabic course, and inshallah we're going to try to complete an introduction to Arabic grammar and language and usage in about 40 sessions, about 40 weeks. So that'll be about 1 year, and I hope to complete it by the month of Ramadan next year. That is a little bit of a difficult challenge. I don't want to make it seem as if that's the normal length of time that a course of Arabic is going to take, especially since we're going to be meeting once a week. The original plan was to meet twice a week, but many of you who wanted to register contacted me and said that you'd only be able to make it once a week. And so even though once a week really is too little, but if the choice is between having people attend and then miss one class or shortening it to once a week, then I think it was preferable to do it once a week.
Is it still going to be the 9 o'clock, or are we going to go a little bit
more? No, so we're going to have it from about 7:45 to at least 9:30. We'll try to complete the material and end the class by 9:30, but I will be here for 15 minutes for question and answer and for those who may wish to go through a little bit of review before you leave. So formally 7:45 till 9:45 we will be here. And the classes are going to be recorded, but I would recommend that all of us make an effort to attend every class, because we're going to be going through quite a bit of material, more than normally is done in one class. And I also would like to recommend that all of you choose somebody to be a study partner. Traditionally in Hamza classes or in Islamic institutions, every class would be completed with what's known as a mubahatha, a discussion between 2 or 3 people who are attending the class, where you go over all of the material and take turns. One person teaches the other partner or 2 people the material as if you're a teacher. Trying to ask questions of each other, answer questions, and make sure that the material is completely understood. So since we're only going to be meeting once a week, that's very important, whether it be within the family, if there's more than one person in one family attending. If it's difficult for a family to be formal and regular, then you might want to find somebody else, but definitely find somebody who you will be able to meet with once or twice a week to go over the material and to look at any things that are unclear or anything that you want to make up for. We will be using this textbook. I think some of you have already purchased the book. It is called An Introduction to Quranic and Classical Arabic. It's a university textbook that's used in some schools in America. And it's a little bit of a difficult book. Right? The text is written based on Western European grammars. I chose the book because it's very complete, it's brief, it's comprehensive, and it focuses on classical Arabic, Quranic Arabic, the Arabic that you're going to be seeing in the Quran in du'as. And if you want to use Arabic language to study other Islamic textbooks in Arabic, history textbooks, Nahj al-Balagha, Sahifa Sajjadiyya, any of those books, this is the Arabic that you will find, the same vocabulary, the same grammar. And it's difficult to find textbooks that are concise, comprehensive, and that focus specifically on that type of Arabic. But the terminology that is used in this book is often terminology that many of us are not familiar with, right? Subjunctive or nominative case, diptotes, triptotes. This kind of terminology is not familiar for some of us. And what we're going to do to make that easier is we're going to try to provide notes for every lesson in the book. Those notes will use terminology that is commonly used in Arabic grammar books. It'll make it easier for you in the future if you're going to be continuing your study of the Arabic language. And also the explanations will be a little bit easier. So we're going to have 2 main sources. One will be the textbook, and one will be the notes. That will be a summary of the material in the lessons, a little bit easier, but not necessarily everything that is in the book. And there will be some things that we will explain a little bit differently. So make an effort to take a look at the notes first. After you've looked at the notes carefully, then when you're awake, then take a look at the textbook and see if you can understand the material in the textbook. But definitely do take a look at the textbook, because the exercises and the examples that we're going to be using, they're going to be from the textbook. I want to explain what this class is not. This class is not a class on reading or reciting the Quran. Right? That's a completely different issue. To be able to read Arabic fluently, to be able to know the rules of qira'at and tajweed. And that's not what we're going to be focusing on. If that's what somebody is looking for, then this class might not even be very helpful for it. Because we're going to be focusing on the meaning of sentences and not so much on how to read the Quran. So, inshallah, that's something that's also important. And inshallah, we will have classes in recitation of the Quran and reading Arabic and reading du'as, but that's not this class. It is a class that will, inshallah, allow you to read Arabic texts and understand some of those texts as you are reading them. This class is also not a class of spoken Arabic. And so, inshallah, when we had the original plan of 2 days a week, we were going to start using 1 day a week to have the class be partially in Arabic. But now that we're only going to be doing 1 day a week, we're going to have to speak in English during the class and then maybe make up for the ability to use the language at another time. And we'll, inshallah, discuss how we can practice a little bit of speaking, listening to, understanding Arabic separately. But that's not what we're going to be focusing on during this class. It's going to be in English. We'll be discussing the grammar of Arabic, the usage of Arabic. And so primarily, the benefit will be to be able to read and understand written classical Arabic. Right? If you want to be able to write or to speak or to listen to the news, Al Jazeera, or to watch the news in Arabic, then that's not something that we're going to be able to focus on with this amount of time in this class. Inshallah, it will be a first step if you want to later work on that skill, but it's not going to be what we're going to focus on in this class. So this is what the class is. It's a class of Arabic grammar, and what it's not. It's not about reading the Quran or reading du'as. It's not about listening to and speaking Arabic. Any questions so far? Is everybody in the right place? That's what you expected, what you bargained for? Inshallah. Today we'll have basically an introduction to the Arabic language. Hopefully all of you have a basic familiarity with the language, meaning the letters of the Arabic alphabet, how they look, and to recognize the sounds that each letter makes. I'm not going to assume any familiarity with Arabic grammar or even strong fluency in reading Arabic texts. But if you're at the beginning, then in the first few weeks you're going to have to make a lot of extra time to practice and to be able to recognize the Arabic letters fluently and then to be able to read the beginning texts. So let's begin by passing out the notes. These are actually notes for the first lesson, and we're not going to get through all of them today because we have some introductory material to get through, but we should be able to start. So can I have a volunteer? And based on how many people signed up, I had made 25 copies. So if you've already made a printout of the notes before you came, then just let Brother Mahdi know so he doesn't pass out a copy to you. And also if there are some of us who can maybe share, and that way we can have enough notes for everybody. Can you have a volunteer to pass these out as well? So let's try to get at least one set of notes for every 2 people. Sure.
Will there be any quizzes, exams?
Inshallah, What we'll do is we'll have a series of periodic quizzes. Those will be entirely take-home quizzes. So you're not going to be using class time to be tested. But inshallah, take them seriously because the purpose is to give you an idea of how much you've understood and also to bring the class, everybody at somewhat a similar level. So inshallah, we will have some kind of evaluation, but it's not going to be during class time. Class time we'll try to use specifically to get through material and to move forward with that. We will give a grade, but it's not going to be something that is going to be very formal. So primarily, the effort will be to underline things that need to be corrected. Then we'll give it back to you and you can make those corrections. So it's part of the process of improving your language skills, not necessarily a test to get a number on and then to be completed with. So do we have a copy of the notes, at least for every few people? Right. And everybody who has not sent me an email or registered for the class, registration basically is to send me your email and I will add you to the class list and also send you an invitation for our Yahoo group so that you can get access to any announcements or materials. That's all that's required for registration. If you have not sent me your email, then please do so. We'll pass around a signed-up sheet at the end of class. Write down your name and your email and let me know. If anybody feels like after today's class, this class is not what you were looking for, then let me know that you won't be attending so that we will be able to make sure that we have the right amount of materials for everybody who will be attending. If there's more than one person coming from one family, then let me know that there's 2 people who will be attending. Ideally, give me everybody's email so that everybody can get the information and they can have access to all of the announcements and things. For the registration, inshallah, we can talk about that after class. I did bring 8 copies of the textbook. Until last week, we only had about 10, 12 people who had registered, and some of you had already purchased the textbook. So that's not going to be enough for everybody. I've been told that there is a copy of this book online. I don't know if that is a legal copy, so I would recommend that all of you do purchase the textbook itself, if you have not already done so. One of the benefits is that you'll be able to take notes. There will occasionally be times when we need to make corrections, and you can make those corrections. A PDF file, it's not easy to make those corrections. So inshallah, we will not be needing the book today. At the end of class, those of you who would like a copy, you can take a copy from here. And those of you who want, you can also order it online. It's available in some bookstores as well to purchase. So any questions before we get started with the introduction now to the Arabic language? All right. Just to wake everybody up, let's recite salawat. All right. To begin, I want to see what some of us already know about the Arabic language. Its history, its development, basic points of a general interest about its grammar. And so if you were to tell one trivia fact or one fact about the Arabic language, not something completely irrelevant like how many people speak the Arabic language in Somalia, but something that is relevant to a student who wants to learn the language, what would you describe the Arabic language as? What would you say about it? It's a Semitic language. Right? What that means is that the basic structure of Arabic is different from English. It's different from Farsi or Urdu or a lot of other languages that most of us speak. Right? We don't use prefixes and suffixes in Arabic. It has a different structure. Right? And the structure is something that it shares with other languages. What languages are related to Arabic? Hebrew.
Assyrian? Did you say Assyrian or no?
Assyrian, yes. Aramaic. No, related in the sense of the grammar and the structure. So Turkish, Farsi, Urdu, Swahili, Hausa, Indonesian. These are languages that have taken a lot of Arabic words, right? But they're not related to Arabic because their structure and their grammar has nothing to do with Arabic. It's nothing like Arabic. So if you know Farsi or if you know Turkish or if you know Urdu, you might know a lot of Arabic words, but the language is a completely different language. And in some senses, you'll have to relearn how to use those words and even how to pronounce those words and what those words mean in order to be able to use them properly in Arabic. Right? So Hebrew, for example, is closely related to the Arabic language. Farsi shares a much larger vocabulary with Arabic than Hebrew does, but it's not as closely related. The grammar is very different. What else can we say about the Arabic language?
It's root-based. Basically, every word has a three-letter root, and it just feeds off of that.
That's a very important point. In Arabic, most words have three main letters. And those three letters are known as the root. In modern Arabic, that's sometimes referred to as the jidr. Usually there will be three letters. Today that's sometimes referred to as jidr. Jidr literally means the root. In Arabic dictionaries, it's often going to be referred to as asl. Asl also means root. And so the root letters are three letters that tell you the basic range of meanings that will exist for an Arabic word. And then those root letters are modified to give different meanings. Right? Just to use one common example, the three letters Ain, Lam, Mim. What do they mean? Knowledge, right? And you can't pronounce it because the root letters are not ilm. Ilm is one form that these letters will take. These letters generally have the meaning of knowledge. And there's many different words that are formed from these three letters. One of those words is ilm, which is knowledge. You can also form the word alima, which means he knew. Right? He knew or he came to know. What other words can we form from these three letters? You can't see. All right, you have to say. All right, I will rewrite that. So we have three letters. Is that better? Ilm, alima, alim. Alim is one who knows. Ya'lamu, ya'lamu, meaning he knows. Right? So you can change the word by adding more letters ta'aleem. In ta'aleem, you'll notice that the same three letters exist. Ain, lam, mim. But there's some additional letters that have been added. There's vowels that have been added. Ta'aleem means what? Education or teaching specifically. And there's many other words that can be used. Alama. Alama means a sign, because a sign is something through which you find something out. Alam means flag, because a flag is something through which you find out whose army it is. Right? So there's many different words. Some of them you can see a clear relationship. So obviously, alim is very closely related to the root word, which means knowledge. But alam, which means flag, it's still related, but that relationship might not be so obvious. You have to think about it. And that's an important point. When you're looking at Arabic words, you can't always say that, well, I know what the root word is, I know a related word, so I can guess the meaning of a particular word. Sometimes the relationship is a little bit unclear. And I'll give an example of that, because it'll give us an idea of how these relationships in Arabic, they come to be. Can I erase this? This is another Arabic root. Is that big enough for everybody to see? Does anybody want to tell me what that might mean? Any guesses on what that root means? Don't pronounce it, because it doesn't have a pronunciation. It's j-n-n. You can't pronounce it. What do you think that root might mean? Think of words that have those letters in them. Jinan, Jannah. So what could that word mean? That's what one of its related words means. Well, let's look at some words. So some of you said Jannah, right? Only today, I'm writing the vowel signs with the words. Starting next week, we're not going to be doing that. But since today is the first day I'm writing the vowel signs, we're going to get in the habit of recognizing Arabic words without that, inshallah. So Jannah. What does Jannah mean? It's used for heaven, but what does it originally mean in Arabic? A garden or an orchard. Right? So usually a place where there's trees, fruit trees. Botanical gardens will not be Jannah. Right? That would be Hadiqa, for example, or Bustan, flower garden. But Jannah is a garden where you have trees, orchard. What other words have this root? Jinn. What does jinn mean? A genie, right? Right? Some mysterious and somewhat scary creature, right? I heard majnoon. What does majnoon mean? Crazy. Right? So, yes. Lost is nice too. Somebody who is mentally not in possession of their faculties. What other words do we have? Jinan. Jinan is the plural of Jannah. So Jannah, Jinan. Mafatihul Jinan, the keys of the gardens of paradise or the orchards of paradise. What other words? Junoon is related to Majnoon, right? So Junoon is the state of being Majnoon, of being lost or of being, yeah. It's used with different connotations in poetry, but being crazy or being there's the word actually make it easier. Junna. Is anybody familiar with the word Junna?
I've heard of it.
Have you heard the meaning? A shield. A shield. Also Mijanna in some cases. Are any of you familiar with the word janeen? What is a janeen? A fetus. So what connection is there between all of these words? They're all hidden. So the root word jim noon noon means hiddenness. But as you can see, it's not just a simple process of saying that all of the derived words are going to be obvious. Right? You actually need to know how they are used. Jannah or Jinan, if you have trees with a thick shade, especially fruit trees, they cover the ground. So if you're looking at it from a height, from a mountaintop or from a rooftop, you'll see the tops of the trees, it'll hide the ground. Right? So that's why it's called a Jannah, a covered garden. Jinn, well, one of the reasons why jinn are so interesting is because you don't see them. Right? If they were ever seen, they wouldn't be so interesting. So jinn are hidden. Majnoon, Junoon, that's why I like the translation lost. Because if a person is crazy, you don't know where their intellect has gone. It's hidden. Junna, obviously a shield is used to hide a person from danger. Janeen, a fetus.
That shield used in the battlefield, that one?
Yes, a shield. A shield used in the battlefield. Janeen is a fetus, and that's a person hidden from being seen. So there is a relationship, but fetus, shield, garden, person who is crazy, person, a genie, they don't have an obvious connection. So sometimes finding the connections between Arabic words is actually very interesting. And one of the most rewarding things of studying Arabic is to see how those words are related, how those words are connected. And in fact, one of the things that's rewarding in reading the Quran and in reading the du'as is to find those connections between words. Because in the Quran and in du'as, as we will see, that connection between words has often been used deliberately to give a lot of meaning to words. So it's not just simply a word that's being used, But that word, when it's used in a prayer, when it's used in a hadith, when it's used in a verse of the Quran, it simultaneously brings to mind other related words and the derivation of that word, how that meaning came to be. And that's sometimes relevant in how we understand what that verse or that sentence is saying. So if you can understand Arabic in Arabic, it might be a lot of work. It might take some time to be able to get to a point where you can understand Arabic without having to look at the translation. But one of the biggest benefits that you'll see is that you'll be able to appreciate those connections and those relationships among different words. And we'll see some examples, inshallah, as we move forward. So before we begin the study of Arabic grammar, I want to just give a few notes that are going to be useful for all of us. And then, inshallah, we'll take a look at some of the basic points of Arabic grammar. If you have a question that you think might be useful for others as well, then feel free to interrupt me or to raise your hand. And if it's a question that you just want to get some clarification on, then maybe make a note for yourself and you can ask me after class is over. The first point is one that I already made, but I want to repeat it. And that is that now that we're studying Arabic, some of us may have the habit of using Arabic incorrectly or somewhat correctly in our daily speech. And we have to be careful to observe how things are used properly in Arabic and to use them correctly. So there's a lot of Arabic words, phrases that have commonly entered into Muslim speech, that have entered into other languages that many Muslims speak. Sometimes they've even entered into the English language, but that's not proper usage according to Arabic. Right? So for example, the way that jihad is understood, it's a mistranslation of what jihad means in Arabic. Or Sharia law. There's no such thing as Sharia law because Sharia means a certain type of law. Right? So those are simply translation issues, but be careful that when we're studying Arabic, we don't want to import the incorrect usage of English or Urdu or Farsi or any other language into Arabic. And those of us who are used to using some words, we're going to have to be especially careful to listen to how it's pronounced in Arabic, to listen to how it's used in Arabic, and to see what its meaning is in Arabic before we automatically assume that it's the same as what we're used to. So for example, for pronunciation, how do you greet somebody in Arabic?
Say Assalamu alaikum, right?
Yes. Salamun alaykum or Assalamu alaykum. Many times you say it quickly, Assalamu alaikum, or even shorter than that. It becomes a contraction. But in Arabic, all of the letters should be pronounced. Assalamu alaykum. Salamun alaykum. Or wa alaykum assalam. That's a pronunciation issue. Insha'Allah. It's 3 words in Arabic. Sometimes when people say it, they bring it all together and make it into one word or half a word. But it should be Insha'Allah. Right? It's 3 words, if God wills. Then there's some words which in Arabic, they are part of a phrase and they should be used correctly. So for example, the dua that is recited on Thursday nights, commonly. What is it called? Yes, many of us are used to saying du'a kumail, or we call a prayer, supplication, dua. Right? In Arabic, it is dua. And the prayer that is recited, the supplication recited on Thursday nights will be pronounced du'a kumail. Right? Properly in Arabic. Du'a kumail. Right? The ziyarah that's recited afterwards is ziyaratul warith. Right? not waritha. Waritha is feminine. And Imam Hussein, for whom the ziyarah is recited, was a man. So it's ziyaratul warith. And sometimes people will say it and sometimes even write it, ziyaratul waritha or ziyaratul waritha. Right? So that's an incorrect Arabic usage. Ziyaratul warith. And notice also how ziyarah is recited, is written. And so those are just a few common examples, but we'll come across many different examples of how the correct Arabic pronunciation, the Arabic usage of a word, or the meaning of a word or of a phrase will be different from how some of us might be used to using it. You should be aware of that. One of the major differences between Arabic and English, many other languages, is the way that the vowels are pronounced. So I want to just go over a few common examples of that. We're not going to be spending a lot of time on how to pronounce the Arabic letters. For some of us, that might be a little bit of a challenge because we're used to pronouncing many of the letters differently from how they're pronounced in Arabic. All I can say for that is make an effort to try to pronounce them as you hear them. And one of the things that's very useful for that is if you can have a recording of the Quran and listen to it and follow along as you're reading. The way that you hear the letters pronounced, try to repeat it in that same way. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Many people speak English with an accent and they're perfectly understood. Many people will speak Arabic with an accent and they will be understood. But we should make an effort to try to pronounce things as accurately as possible. But the vowels are a little bit easier for all of us to work on. And so I want to give a few examples of how that pronunciation is different from the languages that some of us might be useful for. In Arabic, there are short and long vowels. And the short and long vowels, the difference between them is not in the quality of the vowel, but it is in the length of the vowel. So it's not a different sound. It's the same sound, but a short vowel is short, and a long vowel is stretched. So the difference between these two words is, this is haram, this is haram. It's the same sound, but this is stretched longer. Haram, haram. Or another example. قتل قاتل قتل قاتل. This is 3 short vowels, قتل, and this is 1 long vowel and 2 short vowels. قاتل. That qa will take as long to say as both of these together. قاتل. So the difference is in the length of the vowel. The same thing applies to kasra and to dhamma. So with dhamma, these 2 words, qutila, right? This is just like the long vowel, but it's shorter. Qutila, not qutila. 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 I'll translate these as well. Qutila, he was killed. Qutila, he was fought. Qatala, he killed. Qatala, he fought. Haram is sanctuary, a place where there is to be no bloodshed or warfare. Haram means forbidden, or sacred. So, qutila, qutila. One more example. Rahim, Rahim. Rahim, Rahim. With a short vowel, it means womb. W-O-M-B, womb. With a long vowel, it means merciful. Rahim, Rahim. So, be aware of the importance of pronouncing long vowels as long, short vowels as short. It's the same sound, but it's the length of the vowel that will be different. And as you can see, it makes a difference. Because that difference does not exist in English, doesn't exist in many other languages in the same way, it's very easy to mispronounce, and also if you're listening to Arabic, to hear things wrong, because you're not used to seeing long vowels and short vowels separated in that way. But there's a big difference between a womb and merciful. There's also a big difference between being killed and simply being fought, or a sanctuary and forbidden. And that's very common for that difference to be very important in Arabic.
It means you are saying that Aleph, Waw, and Ye are the vowels.
The vowels will be the Fatha, the Dhamma, and the Kasra. When they are stretched, then there will be an indication in writing. And that will be an alif, a waw, or a ya to indicate a long vowel, which is known as mad. Mad means stretching. And then I want to give a few notes on writing, specifically the writing of Arabic. Again, we're not going to go over all of the letters and how to write the letters and connect the letters. If anybody does need any resources on doing that, then send me an email, and I can send you some links online that can help practice the writing of the Arabic letters and how to join and connect them. But assuming that we know the basics, then there's some points that will help us understand Arabic texts better. The first is that there is a difference between alif and Hamza. Alif, Alif is a letter of the Arabic alphabet. And it looks like this. Hamza is a sound. And it will look something like that. Traditionally, the Hamza did not used to be written in Arabic. So there was a time when the Hamza did not used to be written, but it was pronounced. And so, sometime after the Quran was first written down, the Arabs began writing all of the Hamzas. And in order to fit the Hamza into the Arabic script that already existed, they wrote Hamzas sometimes on a different letter, sometimes by themselves. Right? So the Hamza is a sound that did not used to be written in the Arabic language. But in modern Arabic, it will be written, and that Hamza will sometimes be by itself, and sometimes it will be on a different letter. And there's very complicated rules, which fortunately you don't have to learn, as to how to write the Hamza. The alif is simply a letter. Not every alif is a Hamza. Sometimes an alif is just to stretch a fatha. We saw the examples of that, where, for example, haram, that alif is simply to indicate a stretch, a long letter, a long vowel. Sometimes the alif will be a silent letter. And sometimes the alif will be what is known as the seat of a Hamza. So the Hamza is what is pronounced. At the beginning of a word, it will be written on top of a Hamza. Akala, he ate. Ikram, respect or honoring. Notice that the Hamza can be written on top of the alif or below the alif. If it's written below the alif, that usually tells you that it has a kasra, even if no kasra is written. So a good Arabic printing of a book will put the Hamza under an alif if there's a kasra. But unfortunately, there are some printers who are lazy, and so you can't always rely on that being done properly. On top, it might be a fatha or it might be a dhamma. So the Hamza will sometimes be written on top of or below an alif. In some cases and in some books, there might be no Hamza written. You'll just see an alif. But there might still be a Hamza there. So you will still sometimes see an alif that is actually a Hamza, but there will be no Hamza written. So depending on when the book was published, where it was published, how careful the writer was, you have to be used to seeing things in different ways. You will sometimes see a Hamza on top, sometimes a Hamza underneath, sometimes no Hamza.
I don't hear the difference between the right Hamza and the alif.
Well, the alif is not necessarily a sound at all. So when an alif represents a Hamza, there will be no difference in the sound. But sometimes you'll have an alif and there's no Hamza corresponding to it. So the alif is a matter of writing, orthography. The Hamza is a matter of sound. Right? So in the beginning of a word, the Hamza should be written. It will be written above or below the alif. In the middle of a word, the Hamza will sometimes be written on a alif, like sa'ala. He asked. Sometimes on a waw, like su'al. Sometimes on a ya, like ra'is. Bigger? All of them or just the... All right. I'm going to write those one more time. So this is a Hamza, it's written on an alif. This is a Hamza, it's written on a waw. This is the Hamza, it's written on a ya, but there's no dots. ra'is. They're all pronounced the same. Sa'ala, su'al, ra'is. This is not suwal or sawal. It's su'al. If I had written it like this, it would still be pronounced the same way. So just because you see the waw does not mean the waw is pronounced at all. Or here, if you see a ya with no dots, it's the hamza that is pronounced. Ra'is, su'al, sa'ala. Of course, this is wrong. The writing will always be done that way.
Is there a general rule as to what letter it will sit on?
There are some general rules. In the beginning of a word, it will always be on an alif. In the middle of a word, it will either be the letter before or the letter that is on the hamza that will determine. So here, because there is a dhamma before it, the closest thing to a dhamma is a waw.
Ra'is doesn't follow that.
It does, because there's a kasra under it, and a ya corresponds to a kasra.
Okay, so it's not the letter necessarily preceding it.
It's either the letter preceding it or the letter on it, and a dhamma or a kasra is stronger than a fatha. That's why I said they're a little bit complicated. But you don't need to learn those rules, because in general, every time you see a word, right, it will fit. There's a logic that you don't need to memorize all the rules to understand. If there's a dhamma somewhere in the vicinity, it will be perhaps on a waw. If there's a kasra somewhere in the vicinity, it will be on a ya. And you can look at a word, and then once you learn it once, then that's all you need to know.
So another thing, the kasra will be long and the dhamma will be long, or
In this case, the dhamma is short, the hamza is long. Su'al. In this case, the kasra is long. Ra'is. And sometimes in the middle of a word, the hamza will be written not on anything at all. Tasa'ala. Tasa'ala. This hamza is not on top of the alif. It's not under the alif. But it's separate. Tasa'ala. They asked each other, or he asked himself. So in the middle of a word, the hamza will be written one of those ways. And at the end of a word, the same way. So, just a couple examples. Dua. Hamza is written by itself. Bari'ah. To be cured. That's a ya with a hamza on top. And it's not bariya. It's bari'a. Bari'a. Yeah. And that's important because sometimes whether there is a ya or a waw or a hamza will affect the meaning of a word.
So the hamza takes precedence over the pronunciation of the letter.
Yes, the letter is basically just a seat. It's a chair. If there is a hamza on top, it's the hamza that is the letter. You won't call it a ya. You'll call it a hamza. You won't call it a waw. You'll call it a hamza. And you won't call it alif. You'll call it a hamza. Over here, sa'ala.
Change the meaning of the letter.
Yes. So sala, for example, means to flow. But sa'ala means to ask. Bada'a means to begin. Bada means to appear. So it changes the meaning quite a bit sometimes. Right? The example I gave was this word. If it's like this, bada, to appear. But if it's like this, it means to start, to begin.
So like around has two different meanings too, right? Like Adam and the way you pronounce it.
Those are two different words. Because, this is two different words as well. In that case, the difference is only the length of the long vowel or the short vowel. In this case, the difference is that there's two different letters. In one case, it's just a long dal, and in this case, it's a hamza.
If you pronounce it differently, the meaning turns out different.
Yeah, the meaning changes. So basically, it's important to recognize that a hamza is different from an alif. They're two different things. How do you know where the hamza can sit? The short answer is the first time you see a word, you just memorize it. So you see the word ra'is, that's how it's written, you'll learn it that way. There are rules, but they're a little complicated. It's not worth spending the time to go through all of them, at least not now. You learn the word once, and it'll get easier as you go, because there's patterns. So every word that looks like su'al will follow this pattern. Every word that looks like ra'is will follow this pattern. So it'll become easier as you go through. The important point right now, though, is that hamza and alif are two different things. Sure.
Sorry, instead of yeah, if I just write alif,
It's not written with an alif. So it will always be written with a ya. The pronunciation would be the same even if you wrote it any other way. But this is the way that it will be written in Arabic. And there are rules and there is a standard. When I say it's complicated, it doesn't mean that we can choose how we write it. We have to write it the proper way. Right? But the important thing is that it's not a ya, it is an alif. It is a hamza. It's a convention. It's accepted notation. Bari'ah is to be written like this. Right? And there are certain rules, but we won't get into the rules because that would take an entire class to go through all of the rules and try to understand them.
Are there only three letters atop which can the hamza sit?
Yes, the hamza can only sit atop one of these three letters, or it can sit by itself. That's enough for the hamza and the alif. That'll become easier as we go through because we'll see many examples of it. One quick note for those of you who are used to old Farsi dictionaries or Urdu dictionaries. In Arabic, in the Arabic alphabet, the order of the final three letters is ha, waw, ya. It's not waw, ha, ya. So if you're looking for Arabic alphabetical order, or later on we'll be using a dictionary, then the last three letters of the Arabic alphabet are ha, waw, ya. Na, waw, ha, ya, which is sometimes the order that you'll see in some Persian dictionaries or Urdu dictionaries. Another convention, which is important, is that the sukoon, the sign for there not being a vowel sound, will usually not be written in Arabic on a long vowel. So for example, if you see this word with a sukoon on it, that means there's a silent waw. In some Qur'ans that we might be used to reading, they will put that silent waw even if it's a mad, a long vowel, hoon. In Arabic, that's not done. If it's a long vowel, that waw is not treated like a letter. You will not see a sukoon on it. Hoon will be written like that. Hone will be written like this.
Wait, does the sukoon go on top or on the bottom of the letter?
Top. Sukoon will be on the top of the letter. And it means that there is a vowel, a consonant, but it's not pronounced. Hone is used in the Arabic, and it means light as opposed to heavy, and dignified. Yamshuna ala al-ardi hawna. Right? The servants of the most merciful Lord, they walk on the earth softly and with dignity. Hone. Hoon means to lack dignity, to be debased, to be base. Right? Adhab al-hoon, the punishment of disgrace. So hoon and hone are two different words. With a long vowel, sukoon will not be written.
So if we were to read anything outside of the Quran where they don't have harakat, they would be written the exact same. We just need to know from.
You'd have to know from context. Yeah. And the word hoon is not commonly used in modern Arabic. It's going to be used in Quran and in classical Arabic. You won't see it probably in a newspaper, but you will see hone.
But this sukoon, like a small circle, it is a computerized version. It is not the actual sukoon in old books. It is like
You will see it both ways. So you can see it as a half circle or a circle. One other example is the word babe. Babe and beeb. In beeb, you won't see a sukoon written. Beeb is an adjective, a plural adjective meaning white. So if I want to talk about white cars or white people, beeb, it's plural. Babe means eggs. Yes.
For like any meaning in English, can there be two Arabic words?
Yes. Arabic will often have more than one word for the same meaning or for similar meanings.
Yeah, because I know another word for light is like opposite of heavy. So it can be both words?
Yes. And usually there'll be a slight difference in the meaning. So hone means light in the sense of dignified, in the opposite of being a burden. Right? If it's not burden, it's something that is pleasant, that's light, that's dignified, that's pleasing, basically. Right? There's another word for light in the sense of not being hard to lift. Right? Khafif is probably what you're thinking of. Okay, a few more notes on writing. In some words in Arabic, there will be a silent alif. Like in the word amanu. Right? In amanu, this alif is just there as a silent letter. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't add any change to the pronunciation. There will be a lot of times in Arabic when you will see one or even sometimes two silent alifs side by side.
It's not pronounced, but it has a meaning.
It's not pronounced. It doesn't necessarily have a meaning. It's just there just to make the writing clearer. But especially with handwritten Arabic, you have to be aware of the silent alif because there's no spaces between the words. So it's easy to sometimes think that maybe that alif belongs to the next word. That's the important thing to keep that in mind. right? Similarly, you will sometimes have an extra lam, like in the word annar. Right? Annar, that lam is not pronounced. Right? And we'll see that today in the notes. In Arabic, ya, the last letter of the alphabet, will be written either like this or like this. Most modern Arabic texts will write ya like this with 2 dots, and if there are no dots, what it means is that it's written as a ya, but it's actually an alif, and it's pronounced as an alif. For example, the word ala, or the word Musa. Right? It's written as a ya, but it's called an alif in Arabic. There's a small fatha on it. Sometimes the fatha will not be written. So you'll see it like this. Ala, Musa, ila. The ya with 2 dots is pronounced like a ya, as in the word fi, meaning in. Now, the reason why this is confusing is because sometimes both of them will be written like this. So any old Arabic text before there was printing, if you have a manuscript from your great-grandfather, probably all of the ya will be written like this. Some texts printed in Egypt even today, they will be like that as well. But if you see 2 dots, then it is always a ya and not an alif. If you don't see 2 dots, chances are it's an alif. But it might be a ya. They do that just to be sneaky sometimes. But if you see the 2 dots, it will always be a ya.
What about Hamza?
Unless it's a very lazy printer, in which case they might make a mistake. Right? On the internet, you will see the mistakes. But in general, if you see a ya in a printed book with 2 dots, it'll be pronounced ya. And if you see it without the 2 dots, usually it will be pronounced like an alif. Sometimes it might still be a ya. There is one letter in Arabic which is written like this. What is that? It's a ta marbuta. It's half a ta and half a ha.
Even this ya is ya maksura, right?
It's alif maqsura. It's an alif. Remember, it's an alif, it just looks like a ya. Right? So that ala, Musa, ila, it's an alif. This is a ta marbuta. It's not a ta, it's not a ha. It comes at the end of different letters, different words. When you pronounce it, if you're pronouncing it in the middle of a sentence, then you will pronounce it as a ta. That's why it has 2 dots. If you stop at the end of a sentence, you'll pronounce it as a ha. That's why it looks like a ha. But it is never correct in Arabic to treat it as either a ha or a ta. So for example, we have 3 words in Arabic. these will always be three different words. This is the word nusra, which means aid, like assistance. This is with a ha, and it could be, for example, nasarahu, he helped him. But this is a completely different word from that. This ha is a pronoun, him. And this is a different word as well. It could be several words, but one example is nasarta, you helped. This ta here means you helped. So they're different words. Ta marbuta is a cross between a ha and a ta. If I'm pronouncing it at the end of a word, I'll say nusrah. But if it's in the middle of a sentence, then I'll pronounce the ta. And if there is something added to the word, it will convert to a ta. So if I want to say your assistance, then this word will become nusratuka. In that case, because there's a letter coming at the end, when there's a letter coming at the end, it's added to it, you're always going to connect it. And so it will convert to a ta. You'll never say nusraka. It will become nusratuka.
So you would say that's now a ta, that's not a ta marbuta.
It's not a ta marbuta anymore. It's a ta. And one final note is tanween. Tanween is a letter in Arabic, but it's not written. So if we take the word Zayd, I can add two dhammas. It becomes Zaydun. That's actually the word Zayd with a dhamma and a noon, because you're pronouncing a noon, Zaydun. But you don't write it like that, you write it like this. Similarly, you can have two kasras. It's pronounced like this, Zaydin. And if there are two fathas, then you will have an alif added. And in books that are printed, the tanween in that case will often be written on the alif. Zaydan. Either way is fine, but this is how you'll see it printed. That alif also is simply an extra alif that's written. There's a reason for it, but it's not relevant for us now. You can treat it as a silent letter. All right. Are we all together still? Right. That was the introduction to Arabic, but that's not the entire class for today. We're going to get started on lesson 1. And we will end a little bit early today because we need to get emails and also make sure that everybody who wants the book knows how to get the book or can get a book tonight. So inshallah, 15 more minutes and then we'll end for today, inshallah. But I want to get started on the first lesson. So if you can take a look at the notes. Right? A noun in Arabic is known as ism. Notice the pronunciation. The sin has a sukoon. Ism. Ism, not ism. Ism. An ism is the name of something. It can be the name of a person. So Sulaiman is an ism. It can be the name of a thing. Masjid is an ism. It can be the name of a concept. So qatl, assassination, is an ism. In Arabic, it can also be a pronoun. So anta, you, is an ism because it names something. An adjective in Arabic is an ism. Alim, because it names something, somebody who knows. And so in Arabic they're called ism. There's two types of nouns. Nakira and ma'rifa. Nakira is an indefinite noun. It names something without being specific for one thing. And ma'rifa is a definite noun. It's referring to a specific thing. You can think of it like a common noun and a proper noun, but definite and indefinite is better. Because common nouns and proper nouns, in English, they have a specific meaning. But a definite noun is something that refers to something in particular. Ma'rifa, it's known. And nakira is a common noun. Can somebody give me an example of a indefinite noun? A nakira. Kitab. Pen. Pen in English, which would be qalam. Right? Now, how can I make that into a ma'rifa noun? Yes. So, to make a noun a definite noun, sorry? Let's take the word Medina. What does the word Medina mean? City. Is that definite or indefinite? Indefinite. Medina does not refer to a city in Hijaz. It means a city. Chicago is a Medina. Mecca is a Medina. Al-Madina in Hijaz is a city, is a Medina. Right? Cairo is a city. So they're all cities. Medina means a city. It's an indefinite thing. How can I make it definite? I can say Al-Madina. Al-Madina, which means either the city or what is the city for Muslims. The city of the Prophet. That's why it was named Al-Madina, because that was the city, right, in honor of the Prophet. How else can I make a noun definite? Yes. So I can say, instead of saying Al-Madina, I can say, for example, Madinatuna. Right? And I just explained how that ta marbuta gets converted to a ta. So that's just the same word, Medina, right? The same word that we saw before, Medina. But the ta now, the ta marbuta becomes a ta. And then we add the suffix na. Na means our. Madinatu na. our city. Right? That's definite now. Because it can't refer to just any city. It has to be referring to some city that we've been talking about. It might be Chicago. It might be some other city. But whatever city it is, it's a specific city. It's definite. So where Medina is nakira, Madinatuna is ma'rifah. Question?
I was just wondering, like, okay, so Al-Madina, what does it mean again?
The city.
So how would you say the city of Medina? Like, or the city of Chicago?
That is a very good question, because that's exactly what I wanted to ask next. What is one other way that we can make Medina definite? Right. Let's stay with the Prophet though. Right? Madinatun Nabi. We could say Madinat Ram Emanuel, but we don't want to do that. Right? Madinatun Nabi. City of the Prophet. Right? So now it's clear what we're referring to.
Because it is in this ta is in between these letters, so we'll pronounce.
You will always pronounce it. If it had been just like this, you could have said Medina. But now that it's connected and you're always saying them together, you will say Madinatun Nabi. Still ta marbuta, but it's pronounced. So you can add a word, and that word has to be a definite noun. When you combine the two, Medina also becomes definite, because the city of the Prophet is a definite city. Al-Madina, the city, is definite. Madinatuna, our city, is definite. In reality, these two are the same thing. The city of us, the city of the Prophet. Right? But either a pronoun or another noun that's added to it makes it definite. And of course, the alif lam, which means the. So can somebody do the same thing with bait? Bait means house. So how can we make it definite? Baytuna, meaning Baytuna means our house. Baytullah or Baytun Nabi, right? House of God, house of the Prophet, or Al-Bayt, the house. Right? You can make an indefinite noun into a definite noun. Right? Any name is definite. A name does not need an alif lam to become definite. So Sulaiman is definite. You don't need to say Al-Sulaiman or Al-Fatima or add an alif lam to a name. There are some names that generally do have an alif lam, and some names that can be used both ways. But you don't need an alif lam to make a name ma'rifah. So Muhammad is always Muhammad. It's never going to be Al-Muhammad. But for example, we can say Hassan or Al-Hassan, Hussein or Al-Hussein, Abbas or Al-Abbas. Both of them are correct.
But can we say As-Sulaiman?
No. Some names can never take alif lam.
How do we know that?
The way that it's been used by Arabic usage. Right? A lot of people who are learning Arabic, they like to add alif lam because it seems like the easiest way to make a word into something sounding Arabic. And we also think that that's one way to make a noun definite. But if it's a name, it's already definite. Right? Even if I name somebody Pen, if it's their name, then qalam is not an indefinite noun. It's their name.
Only when we're using it to say.
To refer to them. Yeah. So any name is already definite.
So like Al-Hassan and Al-Hussein, those are, Hassan and Hussein have meanings that can be used for just like if this is a
Hassan and Hussein have been used both ways. So Hassan by itself has a meaning of its own. If it's a name, Hassan is a definite noun. It doesn't need to be Al-Hassan. But in Arabic, the name Al-Hassan has been used both ways. With alif lam and without alif lam.
So something like Sulaiman is not an Arabic word. That's why
It's not an Arabic word. It doesn't have an alif lam. And some Arabic words do not have an alif lam either. Like Muhammad or Fatima. They will never have an alif lam. So don't add an alif lam to your name to make it Arabic. Right? In some cases it will be used, in some cases it will not. You're always safe not adding an alif lam. If you add it, you might make a mistake. But if you add it, then add it consistently. Don't change it. So don't say Al-Hasan sometimes and Hasan sometimes. Use it one way consistently. Okay, and then we can look at page 2. The use of alif lam. Sometimes the alif lam will be pronounced, and sometimes the alif lam will not be pronounced. Right? There's 14 letters of the Arabic alphabet that are known as al-huruf ash-shamsiyya. Ash-shamsiyya, because when alif lam is added to the word shams, the lam is not pronounced. We don't say al-shamsiyya or al-shams, we say ash-shams. Right? It's easier to just skip the lam and double the letter sheen. Right? And there's 14 letters like that. That's the right-hand column, the assimilating consonants. And then there are 14 consonants which are known as al-huruf al-qamariyya, because when we add alif lam to the word qamar, we pronounce the lam. We say al-qamar. We don't say ak-qamar. It's al-qamar. Right? So the first column on the left is those words where the alif lam will be pronounced. I'll just read down the list. Al-ard, al-bab, al-jannah, al-hilm or hulm. Both are words. Hilm means wisdom or forbearance. Hulm means dream.
Are these rules only for combination with lam, or is it pretty much?
No, only for alif lam. These are the rules for alif lam. Al-khabar, al-amal, al-ghina, the way it's written here. If there's no dots, I think actually there are dots. If there are dots, then it would be al-ghani. Al-fatwa, this was a mistake, there should be no dots. Fatwa should not have dots. And that's my mistake, sorry for that. Al-fatwa with no dots. Al-qalam, al-kitab, al-madina. There is a word in Arabic, al-hadi, and there's a word huda. This is al-hadi, the way it's written now. Al-walad, al-yawm. And in the right-hand column, at-turab, at-thaman, ad-daraja, al-dharra, al-rajul, al-zaman, al-sa'a, al-shams, الصبر الضال الطويل الظلم الليل النهار. In that column, the lam was not pronounced. And I think we will have to end there. So inshallah, that will be our first class. Inshallah, we will meet again next week at 7:45, right after Maghrib. I made the announcement today that the Maghrib prayer will be shortened. Maghrib and Isha prayer, right after the prayer ends, then we will begin the class. So those of you who have to get kids ready for the babysitting, make those arrangements, and if you can start right at 7:45, that way we'll be able to get more